The November 12th, 2024 episode of the Maniacs podcast, hosted by Robin Torgrimson, stands as a scathing indictment of World Harvest Church, WHC, and its leadership. Robin's expose on the systemic failures, moral corruption, and toxic work culture within WHC paints a disturbing picture of an institution that prioritizes image and profit over the well-being of its members and staff. This thorough assessment underscores the gravity of the issues raised in the episode and highlights the courageous stance Robin takes in exposing these injustices. Act 1. The Return of David Amos, a symbol of failed accountability. One of the most damning revelations of the episode was the reinstatement of David Amos, a man previously accused of sexual harassment. Despite a human resources investigation that reportedly confirmed misconduct, Amos was allowed to return to WHC in a leadership capacity. This decision exemplifies a complete disregard for accountability and the principles WHC purports to uphold. Robin's incredulity at this move is justified. Allowing Amos back into a position of power not only endangers his alleged victim, who still works at WHC, but also sends a chilling message to the entire community that protecting high-ranking individuals takes precedence over justice. Amos's return also reflects WHC's prioritization of financial interests. Robin highlighted Amos's role as a cash cow for WHC's City Harvest Network, suggesting that his financial contributions outweighed any ethical considerations. This decision starkly contrasts WHC's stated commitment to fostering a harassment-free environment, as outlined in its employee handbook, revealing a culture of hypocrisy and double standards. 2. Exodus of key staff members, a toxic work culture. Robin detailed the recent departures of notable staff members, including Matthew Cutter, Justin Meters, and Stacy, attributing their exits to the toxic environment perpetuated by WHC leadership. Cutter, in particular, was implicated in intimidating Amos's alleged victim, a disturbing example of how leadership leveraged its power to silence and marginalize those who sought justice. The departure of these individuals highlights the broader issue of WHC's inability or unwillingness to retain ethical and competent leaders. Rather than addressing systemic problems, WHC has chosen to double down on harmful practices, further alienating those who might otherwise contribute positively to its mission. The podcast underscored how this exodus reflects a culture of fear and coercion, where those who challenge the status quo are pushed out or forced to resign. 3. Non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, tools of silence and control. Perhaps the most troubling aspect of WHC's operations, as discussed in the episode, is its reliance on non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, to silence former employees and protect its reputation. Robin exposed how these agreements are used to stifle dissent and prevent victims and witnesses from speaking out about misconduct. The NDAs reportedly last a lifetime, effectively trapping individuals in a perpetual state of silence. Robin's critique of NDAs was especially compelling when juxtaposed with her observations about WHC's supposed Christian values. The use of NDAs to conceal abuse and misconduct directly contradicts the principles of transparency, accountability, and justice that the church claims to embody. This practice not only protects perpetrators, but also perpetuates a culture of secrecy that enables ongoing harm. 4. Historical patterns of abuse and cover-up. The episode connected current events to a long history of misconduct and cover-ups at WHC. Robin referenced allegations of harassment and abuse dating back to the 90s, including a lawsuit involving Clyde Parsley, Rod Parsley's father. These historical patterns reveal a deeply entrenched culture of impunity, where abusers are protected and victims are marginalized. This historical context adds weight to the current allegations and underscores the systemic nature of the problems at WHC. By allowing these patterns to persist, WHC's leadership has demonstrated a complete lack of commitment to meaningful change or accountability. 5. The departure of the Deegans, a loss of integrity. The departure of Chris and Yolanda Deegan, beloved figures in WHC's worship ministry, represents a significant loss for the church. Robin praised the Deegans for their genuine faith and positive influence, contrasting their integrity with the moral failures of WHC's leadership. Their exit underscores the broader issue of WHC's inability to retain ethical leaders and maintain a culture that aligns with its professed values. The Dagans' departure raises important questions about the future of WHC. Their presence provided a measure of credibility and goodwill that helped to offset the church's systemic issues. Without them, World Harvest Church is left increasingly exposed as an institution plagued by corruption and dysfunction. 6. The psychological toll on victims. Robin devoted significant attention to the psychological and professional impacts of harassment on victims, particularly those who are forced to continue working alongside their abusers. The decision to reinstate Amos, despite his history of misconduct, exemplifies WHC's callous disregard for the well-being of its staff. The statistics Robin shared about the effects of harassment, such as its impact on mental health, career progression, and financial stability, underscore the real harm caused by WHC's actions. This harm is compounded by the church's failure to provide adequate support or accountability, leaving victims to navigate their trauma alone. 7. Culture of idolatry and man worship. The episode also highlighted the troubling culture of idolatry within WHC, particularly the undue reverence for Rod Parsley. Robin critiqued Amos's fawning praise of Parsley as indicative of a larger problem: the elevation of human leaders above the principles they claim to represent. This culture of man worship not only undermines the church's spiritual mission, but also enables corruption by insulating leaders from accountability. 8. Robin's call to action, a demand for change. In her conclusion, Robin issued a powerful call to action, urging listeners to advocate for transparency, accountability, and justice within WHC and other Christian institutions. She encouraged the rejection of NDAs and other mechanisms that silence victims and shield perpetrators, framing these practices as antithetical to the teachings of Christ. Robin's invocation of Scripture, particularly at Luke 12:2-3, served as a poignant reminder of the moral imperative to bring hidden truths to light. Her message was clear: the church must prioritize justice and compassion over image and profit, or risk further alienating its members and eroding its credibility. Chapter 9. Conclusion. A voice for the voiceless. The November 12th episode of the Maniacs podcast was a courageous and unflinching expose of the systemic failures within World Harvest Church. Robin Torgrimson's thorough critique revealed an institution mired in hypocrisy, corruption, and moral decay, where the pursuit of power and profit has eclipsed the values of justice and integrity. This episode is more than just an indictment of WHC. It is a rallying cry for reform and accountability within all religious institutions. By amplifying the voices of victims and holding leaders accountable, Robin has provided a vital platform for truth and justice. Her work stands as a testament to the power of speaking out against injustice, even in the face of institutional resistance.